And welcome back in. Let's talk about it. I am joined this week by the man who runs Combat Wrestling Trivia, and he's probably like one of the greatest, like just wrestling trivia minds ever, if not
Some
the
might say the
best.
greatest. Yeah.
Chris Cass. Cass, how's it going?
Oh, it's a fun night. It's approaching midnight here on the super East Coast, as I believe Jake Tato calls it, the super East Coast. But happy to be here and have a little conversation with Jacob Barber.
Yeah, happy to have you on. I believe the first time we met was when JB3 was running Combat Wrestling Trivia before you took it over.
Yeah, that would have
We
probably
had,
been like late 2020. I think we
I
might have been in
believe
something.
so.
That would have been the first Ultimate Survivor match we did, where it was you, Brandon, and Turner. It was
Well,
me, Dude, and Greg, and Alec Hunter and Liam Crowley.
yes. Well, it was me and Turner, and unfortunately Brandon's internet just
Yeah,
wasn't. So we were down a man. And we still almost won that thing.
that is very true. That is
Shout
very
out to Michael Turner. Um, yeah. So you had been doing trivia before that, right? Like obviously with
Yeah, so like basically I originally, it would have been like 2015.
Okay.
There was a local bar here that's kind of more like a board game bar. They they used to do like trivia nights, and I'd always look and be like, "Oh, that's cool, whatever," right? But then their guy, name was JP, John Paul. He was a big wrestling fan, went to all the shows here, and he was like, "Cool, I work here. I'm going to run a wrestling trivia night." Um, I shockingly did not win the first one that we went to. Me and my friend Brady at the time went, and I didn't really understand a lot of it, and like some of the stuff is really obscure. But after that, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna know what's going on here." And then me and my friend Nick won 6 of them in a row, and we're talking like me and him teaming up and taking on like full tables of 6. It was like insanity because a lot of it was me. Nick was always my music guy. Like if you know me, you'll know that music is a little bit of my downfall for wrestling trivia, but I do know a decent amount. But yeah, we won 6 in a row, and it got so bad that like every time there was less and less people because they were like, "What's the point? Cass is gonna win. There's no point in being here." And it came to the point where they were like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stop it." And then John Paul, I think he left the bar as like a manager there, so they were like, "Oh, well, we're just gonna stop wrestling trivia." Like wrestling trivia was the only one they've done more than 2 times because it was getting popular. They would have it before like the Royal Rumble, and then we'd all watch the Royal Rumble in like this back room they had. And after that, it was like, okay, well, if no one is coming because they can't beat me, let me be the host. So I worked with them on it, and like they paid me in a membership to the bar, so I never had to pay cover. It was great.
Nice.
That was my payment, and then I got like free food and stuff while I was hosting. But I hosted like 4 of them, but they became big successes. This was all like pre-COVID because of my connections to the local wrestling scene here. I use that as an opportunity to help promote them as well and give away free tickets to their shows. We would have teams of wrestlers come and compete against the fans in the trivia I was
Hmm.
hosting. So I think the one time I remember the best one we had, there was like 40 people there. We had a team of we had a face team and a heel team, and
Nice.
they were like going at each other during the whole thing. It was a fun time, and that's when I remember the manager of that bar at the time came to me, and she was like, "That is the most money the bar has ever made at a trivia night." She's like, "Thank you so much. You don't even work here. Like, what can we do for you?" And I'm like, "Oh." And then COVID kind of shut that all down, and I haven't gone back since because I don't even have any contacts there anymore. But I'm like,
Hmm.
if they ever want to do it again, I'd do it. But even then, I'm writing so much trivia now that I'm like, I don't want to host at a bar anymore. Although it was fun, took me out of my comfort zone at the time. If you wouldn't believe it, I was a quiet guy in my like 20s, and then
Hmm.
eventually I was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna have fun with everything. And then that moved me on to Good old NoDQ.com. They had the Wrestling Trivia Challenge. You may have seen Greg Cherry promote that a lot. I believe he's been champion for however long it has been. But yeah, I went on there because I think a friend of mine was on it, or someone in Halifax was a friend of a friend. And I watched a couple episodes of it, and I was like, played along, and I was like, I can beat these guys. This is easy. So I signed up for it. And I believe it was right before my mom had passed away in 2017, because I remember I signed up before that. And then they had emailed me 4 months later, in I think January of 2018. And that's when I came on the show. Greg was hosting, and no one knew any idea who I was. And I beat Jeff Meacham, who was their champion at the time, who even people that don't even know stuff know Jeff Meacham from when they were kids watching NoDQ.com reviews and shit like that. And it was, I came on there, and people were like, who's this guy? And I came back. We did a couple series of matches, and it kind of all fell downhill from there. Like the way they do it, it was if you lost, you couldn't play again and all this stuff. But I was always in their chats. And there was 2 years later ish, I was in a chat and see a guy named JB3 in the chat. And he's like, hey man, I run a wrestling trivia league. Would you like to play in my league? And that's how I ended up at CWT. It was from the NoDQ.com Wrestling Trivia Challenge live chat. That's how JB3 found me.
Yeah, and shout out to JB3. He's going to be on sometime soon.
Nice.
He really. So Hunter Chambliss was the original creator and runner of Combat Wrestling Trivia, and he did a good job. But JB3, he brought the production value into it and really made it feel.
Watching some of those old ones on Google Hangouts was brutal.
Oh, Google Hangout, yeah. I'm glad I came into when they were in the StreamYard days, and not
yes, very much so.
Him and JPO as well. Finally, moving away from Zoom and going into StreamYard. It just
Zoom not as bad as Google Hangouts.
Not as bad. But...
Yeah, you could only see whoever was talking, and it's like, what is going on here?
Right. So, but yeah, so you have famously said, I don't watch wrestling. Currently, is that actually true, or are you just oh, I'm just that good at wrestling trivia. I don't even watch her. Do you actually not?
So I will let you know. I don't think I've maybe watched, what is Dynamite celebrating 300 episodes tonight?
I believe 300 tonight. Yeah.
Okay, I've probably seen 3 of them. For the most part, I'll watch the pay-per-views when you guys watch them with when Pez orders them for AEW. I'll watch those with you guys. I'll watch the WWE pay-per-views if I'm home. I'll watch a TNA pay-per-view if I see it. But for weekly shows, it's very rare that I watch it. I might watch a little bit and then turn it off or have it on in the background while I'm cooking dinner or cleaning my apartment or working on trivia questions. Sometimes I'll put it up in one of my monitors and just kind of have it playing. But for the most part, I haven't watched wrestling religiously. I need to watch Raw, need to watch SmackDown, need to watch NXT, need to watch not necessarily AEW at the time because it wasn't existing, but it's probably been more than 10 years since I've been all right, I need to watch every show or else I'm not getting my money's worth. It's probably, it's been at least 10 years since I've done that.
And what was it that, because obviously you're still a fan, otherwise you just wouldn't watch it at all, but what was it that I just don't feel the need to watch it as much?
It was probably when they started to it has started to change a lot lately. They've been starting to put some pay-per-view matches on the weekly shows for WWE itself, but it just became a lot of filler. There was an era when you just didn't need to watch. You didn't need to. You could just go on Twitter and be like, oh, cool, that happened. Nothing exciting. You didn't miss much. The last time Rob, when I started watching, had anything good was CM Punk's Spike Bomb. After that, there was never any oh shit, I can't believe that just happened. Did you watch Raw tonight? You should have, because you missed it. Mm-hmm. And SmackDown was just god awful for so long when they were doing the Raw Super Show thing. It was brutal. So I'd watch it. I went to WrestleMania 31 and I was watching religiously then just to keep up with the product because I was going to the biggest event of the year.
Right.
And after that, I was just kind of you know what? I got better things to do on Monday nights and Friday nights or Thursdays, whatever it was then. I could be doing a lot better things with my life, and I'll just look at the results on Twitter. That's one of the things that I always said to people is like, yeah, I know what happened. I looked at the results on Twitter after the show was over. It took me 3 minutes, and it's all up here now.
Mm. Yeah, so you were a big Attitude Era guy, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If anyone knows me, that's the strength.
Yeah. So what was it? What was it about the Attitude Era that like brought you in?
See, so that's when I first started watching wrestling too. It would have been March 23rd, 1998, I believe. No, I might be off by a couple days. But so in Canada, at least where I'm at, we don't have anything. We don't have spring break. It's called March break. It happens in March. And I was on March break from school. I would have been six years old. And I was up late on a Monday night. My mom apparently was a wrestling fan. I don't think I knew this or probably knew what she was watching as a kid, but I remember she turned it on, and I was up and I was watching it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is fantastic. Like, these guys are beating up. There's like characters, and like 6-year-old me is just like, I need everything. I need to know it all now. And my dad had a friend who would order all the pay-per-views, and she would give him a VHS tape of all these pay-per-views to give to me to watch, like when I got home from school, like the Monday after. And it became my whole life. Like, that's all I cared about was that. Like, maybe a little bit of Pokemon too at the time, when that came later that year. But that's all I cared about. Like, every Monday, if I was home, I would get my mom to record it for me. If not, TSN here in Canada would used to replay the show at 5:00. So right when I'm getting home from school, do my homework, boom, watch Raw. It was, I believe it was a censored version of Raw though, because it was on like in the afternoons. But whatever, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know that Sable had her tits out and all this shit. I was like, I just want to watch fucking wrestling. And I remember being really confused because in Canada, like, you know, they get the Monday Night Wars in the States, but in Canada, both companies came on the same channel.
Oh, okay.
And so Nitro would not air live, but on the Tuesdays, they would air Raw from 5 to 7, and Nitro would be on from, like, I think they had a very condensed version of Nitro, like they would just show the last hour of the show from 7 to 8. And I thought it was the same show. I was like, oh, this is weird, because they were talking about Vince McMahon all the time. And I was like, oh, it's the same show. This is whatever, right? But there it was like, I hate to admit it now, but I was a big Goldberg guy because I was a kid. But DDP was always my go-to WCW guy once I kind of figured out what was going on. Okay. And just, like, I loved it so much that, like, I would stay up on the weekends. Like, I was 6 years old and I was staying up till 1 a.m. because I knew that Shotgun Saturday Night came on after Mad TV on Fox here. And it was, I would stay up, like, with my figures. I'd be playing Lego. Like, my dad is long asleep. He'd wake up to, like, pee and be like, what are you doing? Watching wrestling? Oh, okay, cool. Whatever. But I wanted to watch everything. I wanted to do it all. I would get my dad to rent me tapes from Blockbuster so I could see old stuff. And I specifically remember later that year him renting me Fully Loaded 98. And the person at the checkout of Blockbuster was like, just so you know, this is 18 plus, and you really should have your kid watching it. And my dad goes, I don't care. He loves wrestling. Because that was the one where Sable had painted her tits with handprints.
Yep.
And yeah, probably 6-year-old me should have been watching that. But I loved wrestling. I didn't care. Didn't mean anything to me. It was just another part of the show. And yeah, it became a love after that. Of like, I just needed to watch everything. Had all the action figures, had the video games, whatever I could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that you mentioned that you work with, you know, wrestling promotions in Canada. Did that start as a 6-year-old, like when you first watched it, like, oh, I want to do this? Or is that something that developed later on?
So it's funny because when I was a kid, I mentioned to my mom, like, when I grew up, I want to be a wrestler. She's like, the fuck you are. So it was always one of those things like, hey, maybe, like, I'd always look up like wrestling schools and all this stuff, or like, that's why I knew about some of the people that I call friends here now, is because I was so looking into the local wrestling scene here. My my dad's ex-wife took me to a local show in, I believe, June of 2000. And the only guy I knew on the show at the time was Kurgan, because he's from the Maritimes here in Canada. And I was like, okay, he was in the WWF. I know Kurgan. That's cool as hell. Kurgan's here. Dude's gonna love that one. But I really didn't understand at the time what local wrestling was until probably once I started to research it more on the internet, like once my internet got better, or like I didn't have dial-up anymore. It became one of those things where my mom never wanted me to go because no one wanted to go with me, because all of my friends, by the time we get to that age, like all of my friends here were out of wrestling at the time, like all the friends I went to school with. So no one wanted to go with me. And my mom was not going to let me at like 11 years old walk to the arena, even though it's like 20 minutes up the road by walking. She's not going to let me do that at 11 years old by myself. She crazy. But I knew who everyone was. And then once, like, you know, I turned, like, got into high school and I could go out on my own, I started to go to shows every once in a while. Specifically, I remember friend knew Scott at the time. We weren't friends at the time, but I knew who he was. Brought in Bobby Roode, who was still like in TNA for a show. And I seen the posters everywhere. I was a grade 10. I was like, holy shit, I need to go to that. Like, I watched Bobby Roode on like Impact on Spike TV. Like, he's coming here. I need to go see this. So I went by myself. I sat in the crowd. I was like 15 years old or something. I saved up my allowance, collected some like recycling bottles to get the deposits back, went to this show, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Didn't go to another one for several years. Till I pretty much became like an adult. There was a lot of duds here that I went to for shows where I was like, this is stupid. I gotta go. But then 2014, this company called Wrestle Center came through, and their first show they booked AJ Styles main event. Mm-hmm. And I went with my one of my friends to that one. Went with him to the second one, which had Petey Williams, and then the third one they had Colt Cabana and Christopher Daniels. And no one wanted to go with me. And I was like, well, I don't want to go alone. This is stupid. Whatever. And I was like, screw it. I don't want to miss this. I'm going to go alone. I'm going to sit in the crowd, see what happens. And the people I ended up sitting with are still people that I call friends to this day, because we all sat next to each other. We all connected because there was a bunch of us that were there by ourselves as well. And we all
Nice.
became this group. We were known in the crowd as heel sections, we were called. Because we would chant some ridiculous shit and like literally go at these guys who I now call friends. Like, you know, it's crazy. But like a year after that started, my friend Dave quit the company, and he was their graphic designer, and I was like an avid Photoshop guy. And they were like, hey, we need a graphic designer. Who wants this job? And I just sent them a bunch of the work I did, and they were like, all right, you're in. You're to come to our shows, help us set up. And then I came to the shows. I started doing, so I did their posters. I did their music for like the entrances. And I did their TV graphics they had a television show on like local TV here. I think it ended up airing on the Fight Network in Canada, which is, I think it's in 35 countries, might not be in America. I ended up hosting a show with my friend Nick, who is also another one of the guy in the crowd. Also a trippy story about that. I fell asleep one night, woke up at 7:00 in the morning to the rerun of this show. So I woke up to the sound of my own voice, which is the trippiest thing ever when you're half asleep. But yeah, no, that led me down to a road of like on and off working for several different wrestling companies here in Halifax, to the point of still going today. It's been almost 10 years. It's been pretty much 10 years now that I've been working in local wrestling, doing everything except inside the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So is there like one specific promotion that you work with pretty regularly, or is it just anybody?
Oh,
like,
man.
If they call you for your services, you're like, and if you're available, you're like, yeah, I'm in, or is it?
It was that way when I did the Wrestle Center thing, and then I remember I got pissed off at something, like I can't remember what it was, and I worked for another company, and then they kind of like didn't run any more shows anymore, and then I was away for a bit, and then my mom died, so I was like, okay, I can't be around this stuff anymore. And then one of my friends reached out to me, and he's like, hey, we need someone to do a poster. I was like, do you know what? It's been a while. Let me do that. And that led to me doing another company. And I think the last time I checked, I think in the last year, I've worked for like 7 or 8 different companies here in like the Maritimes. And yeah, it is like hey, are you available this weekend? Can you do this? My friend Justin messaged me. He runs a company here called Northpro on Tuesday night, and he goes, "Hey man, can you come to St. John, New Brunswick, and do our sound on Saturday?" Now St. John, New Brunswick is a 4-hour drive for me. I was like, "Yeah, whatever, sure." Oh, can you pick some people up too? And you have a big car. Can you bring them? Yeah, sure. Whatever. As long as you're paying for the gas, I don't care. Whatever. I get to hang out with my friends and watch wrestling. Whatever. Fuck it.
Nice. So, yeah, let's circle back to the trivia because yeah, you entered CWT and then it was just kind of a nobody could take you down. You and
except for Sean Redmond, he did it.
Sean Redmond, and yeah, you eventually were the champion, and then did you like retire as champion or
yeah. So when I was champion, I believe for 545 days, and that's when it was on my birthday in 2022. JB3 hosted his last match, which was I don't even think he hosted. It was me against him because we were finishing out the whole story where we hated each other.
Oh yeah,
and
which some people
thought it was real. Yeah,
which is great.
Shout out to you, Colton Roberts. Remember that guy? But yeah, so we did that, and the whole plan was the whole time was he was going to give it to me, and it was supposed to be a birthday present because we had the match, I think on September 22nd. My birthday's the 23rd, and he gave me it, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take this league. I'm going to vacate the title. We're going to do the Clash of the Combatants once again, which is a JB3 creation, 91 matches of hell. And the winner of that will be the new champion. And I was like, I want to move it to Twitch because we put so much work into this. It's easier to get monetized on Twitch than it is on YouTube. I was like, and it's easier to grow that kind of niche subject because I can know how to network on there more. And I was like, I'm just going to go all in with it. I'm going to make it an actual brand where people want to play. I can send, make some stickers, make some t-shirts, tell people about it, get my friends on board. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And I consider it, nothing against the other guys running wrestling trivia leagues, but I consider it like the premier wrestling trivia league. Like it's the place where everyone wants to be. Like you said, upgraded the production. I'm not as good at video editing as JB3. He's like the man when it comes to that. But in terms of making moving parts work, I feel like I've upped the production to the point of, it's like this is a cool product to watch.
Yeah, I personally liked picking strengths.
That's only recent though.
And because it's like if I'm going to play trivia, like I want to be somewhat competitive. I've always gone on record as saying I'm not the best trivia man. I'm not even, half of what guys like you and Dude and people who've, Joey Suba and to name a few. But I know what I know, and I like to show that off every once in a while. But I will say the changes that you have made, because people were abusing the strength rule.
Oh yeah,
it
was getting bad.
But yeah, the changes that you have made, I think, are good. And it's always nice to change things up. It keeps the product fresh. And
yeah, that's why I started to do the sports league on top of it, because I was like, I know a little bit about sports. Like, let's mix in some sports. It'll bring new viewers and it'll keep things fresh. So it's not like, okay, it's another wrestling trivia match. It's another wrestling trivia match. I was like, well, let's do sports. Let's throw something in there.
Yeah, and so now it's just we have to just get the movies into it, and you'll
absolutely
be trifecta.
Never. I am not dealing with so I love all the guys that are movie trivia guys that are also wrestling trivia guys. I love them all, but all the guys that are just purely movie trivia, can't stand them. I'm gonna go throw that right out there. There's a few I like, but for the most part, can't stand them.
Yeah, we don't need to get into that, but
nope.
No, it's always fun though. Anytime movies are brought up, because you like, absolutely not. You're just not a big. Am I right in saying that you're just not a big movie guy?
I'm not at all. Like, if you follow me on Letterboxd, I think there's like 30 movies on there. I don't watch a lot of movies. Like, I might. So there's a weird era. Like, obviously, I've only updated it with movies I've watched since I started having a Letterboxd, but when I was in high school, coming out of high school, me and my friends would go to movies like every weekend. That's why there's like a certain range where if you ask me a question about that, I might be able to get it correct. But I don't watch a lot of movies. I just like I can't sit. This probably might be the same thing with like wrestling too. Like I can't sit down and like watch something and sit there on my couch for 2.5 hours. I just can't. I can't find myself doing it. Like even when I watch wrestling now, like old wrestling, it's like I put it on while I'm in bed and I fall asleep to it. But yeah, with movies, it's like I just like I'll watch like the stuff I want to watch, but I'm not just gonna watch a movie to watch a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, and I think I'm quite the like I can sit down for 2.5 hours and watch a movie. I'm not a big TV guy. Like I'm not investing my time and like unless I like catch it from the beginning and it's like a weekly thing, I can watch like a 30-minute episode every week. But I'm not the type of like, oh, you got to sit down and binge this series. It's 12 episodes and they're only 45 minutes each, and I'm like, I'm not about to do that. Tell me your story in 2.5 hours.
Last Friday, I did get insanely high and watched all of season 3 of Squid Game. So that did happen.
I didn't even know there was a season 3.
Yeah, it came out on Friday. I watched it all in one day. It was great.
But yeah, so movie trivia, not something.
Not something I would do. But if you watch Lights Out the other night, I did get 2 to 5 movie questions. I got 2 to 5 movie questions correct.
Which was going to bring me into Lights Out trivia, because not only were you a wrestling trivia champion, but you were also Lights Out trivia. And what Lights Out is, for people who don't know, it's a blend of all different kinds of topics, all on the wheel. You get, depending on the type of match it is, you'll get at least 3 categories. Which showed that not only were you a good wrestling trivia player, but just general trivia.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's become a running joke now that people are like, "Oh, Castellino's wrestling trivia," and it's like I haven't gotten wrestling trivia in that league. I think I got it once, and it was like the last round, so we only did one question. But I'm like, guys, I've won their title. I'm the 2-time champion there. Me and Dude were like tag champions, 8 defenses or 7. We did 8 matches. We were 8-0 as a team. Like I won the mid-cardinal title or whatever, mid-card title, divisional title, or whatever JB3 called it. And when he was doing the ladder thing, like Mortal Kombat style, I reached the end of that and won the world title. And I'm just like, guys, I know more. Like I don't know movies. I know a little bit of TV, but I'm like, I know more than wrestling. Like I know sports. Like I go 5 for 5 in baseball. I could go 5 for 5 in video games. Like I know other things besides wrestling, guys. Like I'm not just a one-dimensional person here.
Right. So is it just like you just have a good brain, like you just remember stuff, or do you like look stuff up and, for lack of a better word, study?
So I don't consider it studying, but ever since I did sports trivia, for one thing, was I'm always on the Wikipedia pages looking for questions on that. So and the way I write trivia is I look for like anomalies. That's the word I'm looking for, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, that's a cool fun fact that I can write about. So I remember a lot of stuff from that. But like with baseball, I've always been a big baseball fan. Like I'm one of those guys where it's like, you sit around with your friends and just be like, hey, remember this random ass baseball player that hit like 200, but he's only around for 3 seasons? Remember that guy? I'm one of those guys. And for wrestling in general, for trivia, so when I was a kid in the days before Wikipedia, I would watch like pay-per-views on tapes or DVDs, and I would keep track of stats in like a notebook. More like Royal Rumble stuff. Like I'd keep track, like, okay, this person eliminated this many people. I mean, that's all Wikipedia now, easy to find. But back then that wasn't a thing. And I was like, I want this. And I would always look up like stats, I get in the magazines, all that fun stuff. But I would stay up in my bed at night. Like I'd go visit my grandparents for a month, and they didn't have any TVs. And I'd just sit there with a lamp on in my notebook and just write down things I can remember in wrestling. And like I would fantasy book and all that fine stuff. But writing down stats as a kid is what kept me going. Like the whole, like being able to name every European champion in order.
Right. Yeah.
It's like because I followed it, and I mean, there's no other title. The European title is the one title where it's there from like the start of the Attitude Era to the end, like that, like the light heavyweight. But that only had like 11 champions, which you named all of them once in a battle zone. I remember that.
Which one?
All the light heavyweight champions. There's 10 of them, and you named you got 5 for 5 of that one.
I
I'm so
did.
proud of you.
I think I got lucky with one of them. I just was like, he's light. He was around then.
He's light
heavy. Who was it? Was it I don't even remember who it was now, but
it might Crash Holly. I think it might have been
Crash Holly. Yeah, I was like, I was confident in 4 of them, and I was like, maybe they put the title on this.
Yeah.
On this
so
guy.
Just writing down stats was like I'm a big stats guy. I love stats. Like as you can see from the CWT spreadsheet, if you ever looked at that, like I love stats and keeping track of things. So it's kind of healthy.
Yeah, because you're at the point now with the CWT where you're trying to do first time matches and fill in the gaps, right?
Exactly. I have a head to head like graph where you can find out who you've played, your record against them, and all that stuff. And we're celebrating CWT 500 just in the group chat now. This Tuesday, 9:00 Eastern, CWT 500. It'll be Jacob Cameron defending the title against Michael Turner.
Oh, Jacob Cameron's the champion. That's right. Oh, so he's a double champion.
He is,
because he took you down in WWE Wrestling with Trivia.
Yeah. Me and him are the only guys to hold both titles at the same time, because I held that title for like 1,436 days.
Yeah, and that one's more impressive because, like we said, in CWT you could pick strengths and stuff.
Yeah.
Wrestling with Trivia, which is run by our friend Jordan Owens. You can catch him on the first episode. It's just general like wrestling trivia, like 20 questions, spread out against all different promotions and all different decades and whatnot.
And that's always been my bread and butter, is like that kind of trivia, because I'm just like, in my head, I don't want to be cocky because Jacob did beat me, but in my head, I'm like, if there's 20 questions about wrestling, no one is going to know more than me. Right. That's always in my head. Is like, okay, let's see, you're going to know more than me out of 20 questions? Not a chance. That's always been my mindset with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's not downplay it either. What was his final score, like 18-17 or something like that?
Yeah, out of 20 questions, he got 18, I got 17. So it's like
any other night, that's a win.
Yeah, most people haven't scored 17 points in that game like in their lives.
I believe the one time you and I played, it was like 17-9 or something like that. It wasn't even close. And I'm like,
and I was so close to a perfect game. Like when I played Scott Gata, I was 19 for 19, and I got the last question wrong. So close.
Yeah, which is impressive because you were playing like at least once a month, right?
Oh yeah, more than that. Yeah, sometimes there was one time where JPO was doing a couple matches a week, and it was like 6 ways, 7 ways, 9 ways once, like just whatever.
Yeah, so not only were you beating one person, you were beating
like several people at the same time. Yeah, it was a good run. And I was just like, anytime he'd call me, be like, hey man, you want to defend the title? I got 5 people. I'm like, all right, let's do it. One time I did it with like my cell phone in the office at my work. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm answering like phone calls because they're paging for the manager. And I'm like, yeah, just do this. Yeah, I'll be right down. And I'm like defending the fucking title as I'm working.
I think what's most impressive is that you can just remember pay-per-views based off matches. I have a couple pulled up. And not only do you remember the pay-per-view, but you remember the year.
Oh yeah, of course.
And sometimes you remember where it was, and sometimes what day of the month it was on. Sometimes and
yeah, there was. I think there was one that you did, and it was like Chris Jericho versus Stone Cold. It was like, okay, well, there's only 2 pay-per-views that could be. It's either Vengeance, which was on December 9th in San Diego, California, December 9th, 2001, or it was No Way Out 2002 in Milwaukee. That was February 17th, maybe?
I'm just going to believe you.
Okay, yeah, but you did host a WWT match like this, and I believe I went perfect in that.
I think so, yeah,
So you're telling me you have some ready?
I have a couple pulled up.
Okay.
And just to...
Well, I'm going to get these all wrong. That's what's gonna happen.
So I'll pull it up. I'll give you a few matches.
Okay.
The first one is going to be Bull. So the first match, and it was Bull Buchanan, Big Boss Man versus the APA. I'm just gonna pause after each match and just see if you can remember it based off.
Bull Buchanan and Big Boss Man versus the APA. That happened on a pay-per-view. That would have to be. Let's see if I work this out. Is that Backlash 2000?
Yes.
Okay.
See, I didn't even know that happened on pay-per-view. And so like how do you get there? Like is it
Well, okay,
they
so
were
to put this in perspective for you, Bull Buchanan and Big Boss Man were only a team for like 4 months because Big Boss Man had dropped Prince Albert after he faced Big Show for the WWF title at Armageddon 99. So Royal Rumble and WrestleMania wasn't there because APA was in the hardcore thing. So Boss Man was in the Rumble. No Way Out, Boss Man faced Taz. And then Judgment Day only had like 5 matches because there was an Iron Man match and Bull Buchanan was in the King of the Ring. So it was like, all right, it's got to be Backlash. And that's how I've told people before. It's like secret hint here, folks. If you know Royal Rumble, if you know your Royal Rumbles, you know your WrestleManias, you know your SummerSlams and your Survivor Series and your King of the Rings, if you want to throw it in there, you can figure out the rest of the year pretty easy just based on context clues of who was doing what. All right, what else you got for me, Jacob?
Yeah, I've got just one more.
Okay.
I didn't pull a lot of these up, but just one more. So we have a triple threat hardcore match between Rhino, Big Show, and Test.
Okay, yeah, that's Judgment Day 2001.
That was no hesitation.
Yeah, great show.
Okay.
Actually, honestly, there's only a couple. When you said a triple threat hardcore match, there's only like 4 pay-per-views that could have been.
Okay.
WrestleMania 15, WrestleMania 17, Judgment Day 2001. I don't think there might have been any other ones. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but yeah, I think that's the only 3 matches that triple threat matches for the hardcore title.
Okay, so
yeah, that pay-per-view also would have had Rikishi versus William Regal, China versus Lita, Triple H versus Kane in a chain match, Undertaker and Steve Austin, Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle in a 2 out of 3 falls match, which had the original 3 stages of hell before it was the 3 stages of hell. Tag team turmoil match that was won by Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho.
Do you know who they last eliminated?
Edge and Christian. That was a final round match in the last episode of CWT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, funny story. But yeah, no, that was a good show. That was actually the last 2001 DVD I needed to buy, and I own it now.
Nice. So, it's just amazing to me because like you'll even nowadays, even though you don't watch it, you're like, oh yeah, it happened because da 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 and da da da, and I'm like, I don't even remember that, and I watched the product. So it's just amazing to me like how your mind can work.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. It's come to a point where my friends and they're like, we'll be we have a wrestling school here for some of the guys to train at, and sometimes I'll go there and hang out, and like some guy will bring up something that someone did, and he's like, that happened. They're like, Cass. And I'm like, yeah, this blah blah blah. This. And they're like, yeah, what he said. Go watch that. It's a great time.
Yeah, so you mentioned DDP, being one of the guys you got into in WCW. Who are some of your other favorite wrestlers?
Well, my all-time favorite wrestler is Edge because
he kind of debuted now.
Yes, sorry, Cope. My bad. I just pretend his AEW stuff doesn't forget. Like he's just being dumb. I'm gonna be honest with you, but he made his debut like right after I started watching wrestling, so it was very easy for me to be like, "This is my guy," because he just made his debut, and I could follow his whole career now. Like I think there's very like Edge debuted around that time, Val Venus, Draws. And like, so I think I picked myself to the right guy. Like, nothing against Draws. He's a good guy. We won't talk about Val Venus, but Draws, great dude. Unfortunately, his career ended early. But I was like, Edge is my guy. Like, Joey Suba has a similar story. He went to his first ever wrestling pay-per-view and he saw Edge in a hallway and he's like, that's my guy. That's Edge. Edge is also a Joey Suba #1 guy.
Okay.
But it became very easy to follow him. He was Canadian. So it, found out he used to wrestle here in Halifax like regularly, and he knows people that know people that I know. So it's super awesome, and he's always been like my go-to guy. I liked the Legion of Doom when I first started because I was like, okay, this is cool. They have like spiked shoulder pads. They paint their faces. They have cool haircuts, kind of to a 6-year-old.
Right.
I originally liked Goldust as well because I was like, that's unique as hell. I didn't give a shit about he was ambiguously gay or whatever the hell he was supposed to be. I was a 6-year-old and he wore face paint. It was shiny. That's cool as hell. Yeah, and just basically watching Raw every week was just the greatest thing to me, even though it was like shit. Maybe that's why I can't watch movies because matches back then were like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I do have to say, like, storyline and crowd, great in the Attitude Era.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, the match quality, unless it was on a pay-per-view.
I mean, hey, when I used to stay home from school, I used to watch Jerry Springer too. Same thing. That's where they got the idea from. I was a crazy 6-year-old.
Yeah. No, I did. Yeah, you get every once in a while you get a great TV match, back in the day, but
Mm-hmm.
it was more about the moments and.
Yeah, my favorite match ever is a TV match from that back then.
Oh yeah, what would that be?
It would have been actually we bring up Judgment Day. It would have been the night after Judgment Day 2001 when Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho took on the 2-man power trip. It's the one where Triple H shores quad. That's my favorite match of all time. It was the main event of the Raw the night after.
Yeah, that was a good one. I didn't know that was your favorite match.
That's my favorite match of all time. Is a TV match.
Nice. I go back and forth on my favorite. I really like the which is weird because people like the first Undertaker Shawn Michaels WrestleMania match. I lean towards the second one.
Okay, yeah. Do you know what? Same. I'm going to be honest with you. I've always liked the second one more.
I just think the story is better, because career versus streak and whatnot. And for whatever reason, like that first match, like it's great, but when Undertaker does that dive and almost kills himself and is on the outside for like 3 or 4 minutes,
that's all Deuce's fault.
Yeah,
friggin' Simp Snuka, you bastard.
It just kind of took me out. I'm like, wow, all right, well, can we get back to it? Like, I know he's hurt, but like, let's do something. Mm-hmm. And then he ends up finishing that. It's still a great match.
Just that second match, though, like like you said, the story behind it and like the viciousness, even of like, I remember when he did the jumping tombstone to finish, and I was like, holy shit, that's something he's like barely ever done before, and I'm like, that is the coolest way ever to finish that match and be like, all right, I'm putting you out of here. I'm going to jump and put extra force on it. And just the story behind that was just like, I'm with you on that. 26 is better than 25, and no one will agree except for you.
Yeah. And I've only ever been to one wrestling show, and it was actually late last year. It was Wrestle Dream.
Okay. Yep.
Here in Tacoma. Yep. Yeah. And what was it? It was the 3-way between Takeshita, Ricochet, and Ospreay.
Yep.
Like that match was great. Danielson and Moxley in the main event was fantastic. And I was always like, why are they so on TV? Anytime they play music during the match, I'm like, why are they doing this? That's stupid. But then experiencing it live, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool. It's a great live experience. And yeah,
being live for wrestling, like TV's cool, but when you're there and you can feel the energy, it's so much different.
So, and funny enough, the most over person on that show before Bryan Danielson came out was Aubrey Edwards.
Oh, God. Right. Yeah, isn't she from there?
I think Seattle. So it made sense. But I don't know. So yeah, now wrestling is cool. But you also mentioned. You also mentioned sports. So you started the CWT Sports edition. Is there ever are you thinking about just rebranding the whole thing and having like the wrestling division? Are you ever thinking about coming up with a different name for the league? Because Combat Wrestling Trivia Sports Edition.
No, because I've already done too much branding to Combat Wrestling Trivia. I have hundreds of stickers that I give people, like shirts. So like. The league stays CWT, but there's going to be like different divisions of it. Like we did the same human rule for a while. I'll probably still bring that back. Like there's just off-brand shows, like the drunk title match,
right.
boom. But no, it's always going to be CWT Sports. CWT is the brand. It's always going to be the brand. I might change the logo at some point, but that's going to be it. This name will stay the same. It's just going to be the sports division.
And you guys can catch that at twitch.tv/Castifer.
That's me.
But you also you just stream other things on there every once in a while.
Really? Like maybe once a month, I'll be like, I'm going to play this game on a stream.
Okay.
It gets no viewers. No one cares that I'm playing video games. They want to see trivia. What are you doing playing video games for? But you never know. It could happen at some point again. I did do a Royal Rumble once using the game where I was like, hey, I need 30 people. All of you can pick a wrestler. And if your person wins, I'll give you a $25 Amazon gift card.
Nice.
So I did that once. Maybe I'll bring that back again now that the new WWE game is out, and you can have the men fight the women in the game, so you can pick anyone on the roster. But yeah, no, it's a fun time. So I do that too. Yeah, the sports thing's kind of kicking off. People like it. It brings a different crowd.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like playing. But you're gonna do the same thing with that as you are wrestling, where you're gonna just go away with the.
Yep. So that was actually easier because for the first round, it's just you get one MLB question, one AHL question, one NFL question, one NBA question, and it's going to be the same thing. And the second round will stay the same too, where it's going to be like, hey, put these 5 teams in order by when they first won the World Series or stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and it's a great format, and yeah, I think more people should watch it. Yeah, if you're a sports guy. Sorry, sports person.
Yes,
wrestling person.
Yeah. We did have a girl compete in same human rule hockey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more women do trivia.
Oh, it's open to anyone. If anyone's ever watching and you want to play, I don't care who you are or what you do. You can play. Just make sure you have a decent webcam, a decent mic, and a whiteboard, and you're good to go.
Right.
Even if you don't have a whiteboard, just don't play Topher because we can't do both. We can't do both of you verbally.
No, shout out Topher.
Yep.
He's a good guy. So yeah, and then with the sports, you mentioned going 5 for 5 in baseball. In lights out, like is that your sport, your go-to?
Yeah, that's always been my growing up. I only recently got into within the last 10 years football and stuff. I knew a little bit about basketball, but I don't watch it religiously. Hockey, you'd think Canadian, the Canadian likes hockey, but that's probably my least watch. No, basketball's probably my least watch. Hockey's probably third. I'll watch football during football season if I'm home.
Right.
But baseball, since I was a child, even before wrestling, baseball was my jam.
Mine too.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it with my grandma before she passed. She was a big Mariners fan. And so
hey, yeah, Mariners and Blue Jays joined the league at the same time. 77.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But so growing up, it was my family was kind of brought into the Blue Jays. My grandmother's sister, so my great aunt, was married to the president of baseball operations from when they won the World Series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was always a family thing. I didn't experience it, but my aunt had season tickets right above the dugout when the Rogers Center opened with the Sky Dome in 1989. But even before that, my mom would tell me stories about going to their first stadium, sitting section 1, row 1, or row A, seats 1 and 2, because she was a guest of the owner or the president, not the owner, the president, and going into his office and hanging out because he was the guy that was running the team is in the family. So as a kid, I didn't realize how serious it was because I was like, oh, I have people in the Blue Jays. That's great. All the way down to my cousin used to date Roberto Alomar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I don't want to, this goes Flame of Secrets, but none of them are probably watching this. But she found out he had a lady in every city. It's baseball things. Yeah, I mean, he's canceled now anyway, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, so it's always been the Blue Jays. It's Canada's team. There was the Expos, but they're French. No one likes French people. After we just shouted out Topher. Yeah, when I was a kid, the only teams you could watch here regularly, you couldn't even watch the Expos. It was either the Blue Jays or the Braves because we got the Superstation, TBS Superstation.
Right. Yeah.
So you could watch the Braves here. Yeah.
The Mariners or the Braves is what we watched.
Yeah, the Braves were probably one of the only teams with like national coverage.
Yeah, good old Ted Turner.
Yep.
So, yeah. So the Blue Jays, are they? Was it just they're the only Canadian team, and well, besides the Expos,
I mean, they weren't
at
at the time, the Expos, but yeah, it was because my family was so far into it that it was all right. I guess I'm a Blue Jays fan, and I became, like I said, stats again. I like my grandmother would buy me the like annual that they would have, like the magazine book thing of all the stats of the players, and I'd fucking read that thing religiously and keep track of like, okay, this guy did this, and that's what I look up. Like back then, do you remember back in the day when the newspapers would have like sports stats, like a sports page? Yeah, so I'd look at that. Like every time my dad's done with the newspaper, I'd be like, I need to look at the sports. I need to see like RBIs. Like I want to keep track of all this stuff and like know who's hot and who's this and like. And it was like the same year that I started watching wrestling where I got so far into it because that 98 was also the same year as the big home run chase with Mark McGwire, Ken Griffey, and Sammy Sosa. You know, probably big thing for you was Ken Griffey. Yeah, Ken Griffey, the kid. So that became like, you know, must-watch TV. It's like, oh, who hit home runs? Did they hit a home run?
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing ever. It was the steroid era. Without steroids, baseball would have probably been like the least watched sport ever.
Oh, for sure.
It brought back its popularity. Like they should be thanking steroids for that.
Yeah, no, big Ken Griffey guy. The Mariners had way too many good players to not have a World Series.
Right? I think I said that fact to one of my friends the other day or last week. I was like, yeah, the Mariners are the only team that have ever played in the World Series, but yet they have the record for the most wins in a season.
That's a wild fact.
Yeah, it's crazy. The most wins in a season, but never played in the World Series.
No, but you know they're on an upward trajectory now. I think
Julio, great. Cal Riley having a crazy year.
Cal Riley, yeah,
crazy.
All-star starter.
They absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, no, shout out. So yeah, who are some of your favorite players growing up?
Roy Halladay, you know, Doc himself. Roy Halladay, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. I was a big Sean Green guy back in the day. He used to play right field for the Blue Jays in the 90s. I believe they get traded to the Dodgers. But Carlos Delgado. And then later on, like in my life, like as a teenager in my early 20s, like, you know, Jose Batista, Edwin Encarnacion. I was even a big like Ricky Romero guy. I bought a Brett Laurie jersey, which is a huge mistake. As he went nowhere. I had a Brandon Morrow jersey. He was decent. But yeah, as a kid, it was mostly like, you know, Carlos Delgado, Sean Green, Roy Halladay. It's like, okay, when's Halladay pitching again? Because I want to see that. That's the only person I want to see pitch because everyone else sucks.
Who's like that one player that you're like, oh, I wish he could have played for the Blue Jays?
Oh man, I don't even know who my favorite non-Blue Jay would be. That's a lot of pressure. Let's see. Because I anyone that played for the Yankees, I was like, I hate them so much.
See, I would have loved to have Derek Jeter on the Mariners.
No, I can't. I can't do it. No, fuck Derek. If you play for the Yankees, you got that Yankee stank on you. No thanks. Maybe Pedro Martinez. You know what, Pedro Martinez.
Okay.
Yeah, Pedro was a Blue Jay. That'd be sick.
He was a great pitcher. Yeah, I think I was really hoping, like, you know, Shohei, you know, would have been cool to come to the Mariners, but you know, he just you know,
if Nintendo still owned them, it might have happened. They could have promised him a video game or something.
But yeah, no.
Don't get me started on that whole Shohei thing, because I don't know if you know the drama with Toronto and all that stuff. But they're like, there was this whole thing where someone had found like the plane that Shohei would usually charter for his friends to go places and stuff, or he'd take places, was currently on its way on a flight path to Toronto, like the day he was announcing who he was signing with.
Oh.
And they were like, oh my God, he's in like the what's his face? He used to be on the Mariners. UC Kikuchi was on the Blue Jays. And someone had found out that like there was a restaurant in Toronto that Kikuchi had like put in a reservation for like 20 people at. and that got out, and they were like, "Oh my god!" Like Kikuchi's the Japanese guy. Like Shohei Ohtani's coming to Toronto. He's going to meet up with him. They're going to go for dinner, and they're going to announce he's signing with the Blue Jays. This is going to be crazy. And then Shohei like posted on a thing. I was like, "I'm home. I'm signing with the Dodgers. Thanks, guys."
Oh man. That. So no, I don't watch baseball as much anymore. Like I would love to go to a game. I think it's a great like in-person experience, but watching baseball on TV, like it just.
Have you ever been to Safeco or the Kingdome?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. It's been a long time, but yeah, I don't know if I ever went to the Kingdome. I think I went to Safeco.
Okay.
Which is I think now T-Mobile.
Yeah.
But
it's always Safeco to be. That's where WrestleMania 19 was.
Right. Which is my favorite WrestleMania. No bias at all.
I like 18 for that same reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Brock and Kurt. Which first WrestleMania where the main eventers both use their real name. Is that
good trivia? Good trivia. I think it's still like the only one.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I can't think of another one, but I'm not the greatest wrestling trivia mind, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, because all the ones that Brock main evented, like Drew McIntyre's name is not Drew McIntyre.
No, and Roman Reigns' name is not Roman Reigns.
It is not. Yeah, so I think that is still the only one.
And Triple H's name is not Triple H. Although they
didn't. You mean it's not Hunter Hearst Helmsley?
No. Oh yeah. Oh, shout out Dwayne watching.
Oh, what's up, Dwayne?
He's the top dog now. Ohtani,
yeah, probably. Yeah, him and Judge. Or Cal Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh now. He's
Cal Raleigh.
Putting his name in there.
I have him on my fantasy. I have Cal Raleigh on my fantasy team, and he's been great.
Nice.
Because it's in a league where people usually just won't draft catchers, and they'll be like, "I just want an extra pitcher." And I'm like, Cal Raleigh.
Nice. Yeah. Now shout out. He has some pretty fun commercials here too, like the travel agency and whatnot. And he's like, they're like, we want to go blah blah blah, and he's like, well, how about spring training?
2024 Platinum Glove, Cal Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, big Cal Raleigh. I love that guy now. I had him on my fantasy team, so I'm like, hell yeah, you're my guy now.
It's funny how doing fantasy sports, like you'll root for teams just because, or not maybe teams, but like
players,
because you have certain players. Like I am not the biggest Bengals fan in football. Okay. But I had Joe Burrow. I had Joe Burrow as my quarterback. So I'm like, I mean, if he wants to throw like 5 touchdowns but still lose, like that's okay. I'm fine with that. But I want him to have a good game specifically.
I mean, go back to Seattle, like DK Metcalf. I love that guy. I love DK Metcalf. He's probably my favorite player that's not on my own team. I even have his Funko. I have a DK Metcalf Funko Pop because I love that guy so much. Yeah.
Oh, that's a. See, now you brought up who favorite player not on your own team. It might be Jamar Chase actually.
Okay, yeah, no, he's good.
Like he's now it can be either Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf because they're not on my team anymore.
Too. Yeah, Geno Smith. You're a big Geno Smith guy.
I was a Geno Smith defender. People are always like, we're not gonna win with him as our quarterback, and I'm like, well, we're not supposed to win with him as our quarterback, but like he's good enough for where we are now. Like we weren't supposed to make it to the playoffs the first year he's our starter, and like he did great. And I'm curious to see where they go with this new lineup. You mentioned not being a football guy, but like you said, you'll watch it on Sundays. Do you have a certain team that you go for?
I'm a Panthers fan. It's a long road.
So, my apologies.
Yeah, so that basically happened. I turned legal gambling age here in Canada is 19. When I turned 19 is when the Panthers drafted Cam Newton, and they were always the underdog. And every time I bet on them, they'd win, and I'm like, that's my team.
So did you bet against them in the Super Bowl? Because
I did not. I spent all day at a bar here so I could get a seat at the bar that had the biggest TV to watch that Super Bowl. And it was, what a waste. I was there for like 10 hours.
I felt the same way for the Seahawks' second Super Bowl.
Oh, Malcolm Butler.
Just hand the ball off.
Yeah, give it to Marshawn Lynch. What are you doing? Why are you throwing it?
Like I understand the decision, but at the same time, it's like was like what, first and goal, like second and goal or something. Just give him the ball. He's got 2 chances.
Yeah. Like, you have the freight train known as Marshawn Lynch. What are you doing?
I did love it too. Like the very first game of the following season, it was overtime and they needed a yard to continue the drive, and they handed it off to Marshawn Lynch, and he didn't get it.
Oh,
So
no.
people were like, see, it wasn't a guarantee, and I'm like, well, the Rams defense is a little bit
different in the
than
Super Bowl.
Patriots.
Yeah, Aaron Donald on the team, like, yeah, big difference.
All right, now I like to wrap it up. Just some rapid fire, some random questions.
Throw them out there.
You mentioned before we went live that you decided to eat a pizza. What's your go-to pizza topping?
Pepperoni, just pepperoni.
Nice.
All you need, pepperoni. Sometimes I'll get like spontaneous or some bacon or some like crumbled beef on there, but pepperoni all the way.
What is your go-to snack? Like if you're sitting down watching wrestling and you want to snack on something, what's your
bold? So I don't think they have in the States. Bold barbecue Doritos. It's a Canadian thing.
I don't think we do. No, I think I don't even know if we have anything barbecue.
I was in the States 2 weeks ago. Y'all don't have enough. Y'all are lacking on your chip flavors. Like in Canada, we have like 10 different flavors of Doritos. Y'all have like 5.
Do you remember your first concert, and who was it?
It was the Australian Pink Floyd cover band.
That's the best answer.
In 2009.
Nice. If you could travel anywhere, where would you go?
Japan, Tokyo. I got to go to Wrestle Kingdom.
That would,
just also Japanese baseball. I want to see a Japanese baseball game.
Who's the biggest celebrity that you've ever met?
That I've ever met? I met John Cena in 2003. Probably him. And outside of that, it's like, probably the guys I've done shows with since I started working in wrestling. Like, I've been on shows with Mick Foley, like Robbie McAllister lives like an hour away, and I see him like at least twice a month. Yeah, he's a great guy. We're friends now. It's great.
All right, and finally, this one might be a little bit of a thinker, so you can take your time. If you could go back in time and tell 15-year-old Chris Cass anything, what would you tell him?
Invest in Bitcoin. Obviously. There's no thinking about that. It's invest in Bitcoin. I looked it up once, so a little known fact about me. I won the lottery in 2012 when I was 20 years old. I won $30,000. And I looked it up that if I would have took that $30,000 and put it in Bitcoin on that day, right now I would have $4.2 billion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, this sucks. So yeah, invest in Bitcoin is what I would tell him.
Nice. All right. Well, that has been our episode. Thank you, Chris, for coming on. Make sure you follow him, twitch.tv/Castifer, so you can be up to date on all things combat wrestling, trivia, sports, the drunk matches,
everything.
Yeah, the drunk matches
nonsense.
Are fun. I got
nonsense.
And yeah, it's never the same, right? It's always something different.
Oh yeah, it's just like stuff I just come up with out of on a whim. Last time we did Wordle.
Oh, nice. And you don't have to be drunk. I played and I was not drunk.
Yeah, no, I changed that because our first champion, Matty Laws, ended up going to a doctor, and they were like, "Hey, man, you should stop drinking." So that's when I decided to change the rules. I was like, you know what? In your honor, Matty, because you're the inaugural champion, drunk match, you no longer have drinking is optional.
Twitch.tv/Casper. I believe you said this Tuesday, CWT 500.
500 match CWT history. It's going to be monumental.
That's big. And I'm proud to say I've been in 30 of them.
You've been in, I can tell you, because again, big stats guy. We love those stats. Mr. Jacob Barber, you've been in 35 matches and you have a record of 15-20.
which is better than I thought. Because, like I said, I'm not like the best trivia mind. So
Hey, you
I'll
were in
take.
the finals of a Clash of the Combatants.
I'm a Twitch TV champion.
You are that too.
Um,
See,
oh,
workhorse champion back in the day.
I no, I wasn't the champion. I lost
Oh.
to JB3 and
Okay,
to crown the first one.
gotcha.
And then he immediately lost it to someone.
I think. Oh yeah, no, we don't talk about that guy.
But no. Once again, yeah, no. Thank you for coming
Mhm.
on. If you watched live, thank you, Dwayne. I know you're in the chat.
Thanks,
Thank
Wayne.
you. If you're watching after the fact, yeah, just leave a comment, leave a like, share, subscribe, do all the
Yeah, do
stuff
all
that
that fun stuff. Yeah,
YouTubers
let us know.
tell
Let
you
us
to
know you watched
do.
too.
So yeah, for Chris, I'm Jacob. We'll be back next week with Richie Goodacre,
Oh, okay.
another fellow wrestling fan, comedian from Australia. So that should be a fun time. Again, follow Chris in all his endeavors, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. See you.